Just do what I'm told. All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right. I want to start today by sharing some statistics with you. Nearly 90% of CPS students are children of color, yet 50% of their teachers are white. What's more, around 10% of our African American and Latinx high school students have expressed a serious interest in becoming teachers, but far fewer of them are ever able to realize that dream. Today, we are proud to launch Teach Chicago Tomorrow, a partnership that will help hundreds and eventually thousands of students of color, CPS graduates, become CPS teachers. This new initiative has the power to introduce hundreds of new teachers of color into our district so our students can see more classroom leaders who not only look like them, but that have also had similar experiences as them growing up. Many of you who are familiar with my background know this initiative is very personal to me. Once upon a time, I was a young teacher in Chicago public schools, and I can honestly say that my students benefited from the fact that we had a common experience. We attended school in similar communities, we attended similar schools, and I could really connect with them on their day-to-day experiences as well as what family life may be like. And because of that trust, that helped me become a better educator, and I hope that I helped them become better students as a result. My life experience as a teacher in CPS lines up with what the research tells us about what happens when students of all walks of life, black, white, or brown, have teachers who are diverse, who can share different cultures and backgrounds with them in the classroom. All of these students benefit academically, socially, as well as emotionally. But for students of color in particular, having a teacher of the same race or ethnicity has a lasting impact on them. It impacts their attendance rates, their test scores, as well as their graduation success. Improving teaching diversity has long been a priority in Chicago public schools, but Teach Chicago Tomorrow has the potential to truly move this needle. We estimate that by 2025, Teach Chicago Tomorrow will help graduate 100 new teachers who are former CPS graduates into the system. This will triple the number of CPS grads hired to more than 500 annually in our district. The majority of these hires would be teachers of color, bringing them full circle in our district. To their students, these teachers will become the role models that many of them did not have during their time in CPS. This innovative partnership between CPS, the City Colleges of Chicago, and Illinois State University will help young people interested in teaching chart a new pathway towards that dream. It starts with us investing in our largest and most diverse pool, our students. This data-driven strategy will identify these students early and create a roadmap that will prepare them from the time that they graduate from high school, throughout college, and eventually being hired as CPS teachers. Students who participate in the Teach Chicago Tomorrow program will earn an associate's degree through the city colleges. They will then transition to Illinois State University to earn a bachelor's degree while taking those classes right here in Chicago. After successfully completing that program, these students will have priority job access and placement within CPS schools. This program lines up nicely with our Learn, Plan, Succeed initiative, which seeks to ensure that every single student has a concrete post-secondary plan upon graduation. It also gives a sharper focus to our focus around equity in Chicago public schools and gives it a multi-generational band. Teach Chicago Tomorrow will provide students of color with the support that they need in order to achieve their goals of becoming teachers. This in turn will go on to inspire many students, specifically our African American and Latinx students here in the district. I want to start by thanking everyone who made this historic partnership possible, starting with the CPS talent team led by Chief Matt Lyons, and as well as Felipe Perez, who is leading this initiative. We're excited about our partnership with the City Colleges of Chicago, led by Chancellor Salgado, and President Dietz for his extraordinary leadership at Illinois State University. And of course, we want to give a special thanks to the Crown Family Philanthropies and the Joyce Foundation, because their generosity and support, without their generosity and support, Teach Chicago Tomorrow and the Pathways Partnership would not be possible. I also want to thank the community organizations that are supporting this work, like My Brother's Keeper. There is a mistaken belief that the teaching profession is only for women. And unfortunately, the statistics in CPS support that stereotype. Of the 325 students currently enrolled in our district career and technical education programs for teacher training, only 14% are male students. It is crucial that we address this disparity now, because we know that having a male teacher can also have a lasting impact on our young men. We're fully committed to narrowing this gender gap, and we have engaged My Brother's Keeper to keep the focus explicitly on supporting young men of color through the entire teacher training process. Finally, today, I want to acknowledge, the outstanding leadership from our mayor, Lori Lightfoot. She has shown time and time again that the interest of Chicago public school students is always above all else. I also want to personally thank her for her partnership during these trying times that CPS has faced during 2020. And I want to applaud her for allowing us to continue moving forward this important work despite these extraordinary times, because these initiatives are game changers and our students will benefit from them. Please help me in welcoming our city's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. And good afternoon to everyone. I will return the favor and thank Dr. Jackson and her team for staying focused through a very, very difficult year, and really 2 school years if we're talking about it. I also want to acknowledge our city's other great education leader, City College's Chancellor, Juan Salgado, and what we're announcing today is in line with his vision about partnerships between the city colleges and 4-year colleges. I also want to welcome and thank Illinois State University President Larry Dietz. As I was walking in, I said, the Redbirds are in the house, and we're glad to see you here. I also want to acknowledge and thank CPS teacher and ISU and CPS alum Daniel Jackson, as well as Curry High School counselor and fellow CPS alum Carolina Velez for joining us as well today. And I, too, want to call out and thank the Joyce Foundation and the Crown Family Philanthropies for their generous support, not just in this initiative, but in many, many things that are really moving forward and uplifting the experience at CPS for our young students. So thank both to Joyce and to the Crown family. Let me start by echoing something that Dr. Jackson just said, and that's the fact that the talent and potential in our CPS classrooms is stronger than any place else, and that our future as a city rests in how we invest in our students' future by inspiring them to recognize their God-given talent in themselves and providing them with the opportunity to realize it. As we all know, our school communities, but especially our kids, have been dealt a very difficult hand in 2020. And yet, despite everything that's happened, we still saw our students post a record 82.5% graduation rate this past year, along with a record low 1-year dropout rate of just 5.6%. And this is from students who for years had been struggling under the weight of systemic disinvestment and indifference, and who are now achieving and succeeding together and lifting our entire city with it. This didn't just happen by accident. This historic moment we've been experiencing is a direct result of bold investments that we as a city have been making in our kids really for years. I have to give credit where credit's due. This really started the level of achievement that our kids are experiencing, and the focus on investment really started with Mayor Richard Daley, was carried on by Rahm Emanuel, and I'm happy to take the baton and continue to move forward in bold ways so we can open up many, many avenues for achievement for our students. And it's because also of having inspired leadership like Dr. Jackson and her team. It's because of our CPS families and teachers, principals, and staff like Mr. Jackson and Ms. Velez. And above all else, credit has to go to our young people, to our students. We made investments in them, and those investments are paying off. But our work, obviously, is not over, and there's more to do. Investment in education doesn't just stop at our schools. It can't. Having great schools means having a great school environment. And that, of course, making sure that we have great and committed teachers. And the way that happens is by investing in our teachers. which starts by creating a strong and vibrant teaching pipeline. As an aside, Dr. Jackson talked about the statistics of what our CPS students' demographics are, what our teacher demographics are. In my educational career, really starting at kindergarten through 12th grade, I never had a classroom in which there was a teacher of color, not once. That is a sad reality of where I grew up, but that cannot be the reality for a city like Chicago with the level of diversity that we have, literally people from all over the world. Our teachers have to be drawn from the richness of the community that makes up CPS. That's why I'm so excited about today's announcement. Teach Chicago Tomorrow marks our latest bold step in education in Chicago and how we shape the next generation of teachers. Developing high-quality, homegrown CPS teachers for our students by drawing on our students. And in the process, expanding equity across Chicago by diversifying our teacher workforce, by recruiting in particular from underrepresented groups, as well as upskilling and redirecting non-teaching CPS staff to also aspire to become teachers. As we've heard from Dr. Jackson, we've seen the positive impact on our students when teachers look like our kids, come from the same communities, and are directly invested in our kids' neighborhoods. It makes an enormous difference. The level of empathy and understanding when the person at the head of the classroom also knows what the lived experiences of those children because they've lived in the same communities, been drawn from those same communities, and inspired to teach the next generation of children. Teach Chicago Tomorrow is also part of our long-term strategy to fully harness the power of our city's incredible education infrastructure. And we'll be doing it by building on established programs. First, starting in our CPS high schools with our students interested in becoming teachers themselves, continuing into our great city colleges, and finally, making that connection with Illinois State University and its Chicago Teacher Education Program. Along the way, the students in Teach Chicago Tomorrow will have lower college tuition costs and increased admissions access. They'll also have academic, social, career, and financial supports with access to scholarships, paid CPS work opportunities, and student teaching stipends. Our goal is simple. We want no less, as Dr. Jackson said, no less than 500 CPS graduates hired as CPS teachers every year. Now that's ambitious, and it's more than triple at where we're at now. But this program, we know, truly can be a game changer. As I said earlier, our kids have been dealt a very difficult hand in 2020. It's in the struggle and partnerships like these that I become even more convinced that our city is better positioned than ever to transform the lives of our young people. And in fact, it's an absolute imperative. We've learned many things over the course of this year, but one thing is we never can walk away from our commitment to our young people. We've got to lean into it and move full steam ahead with more investments like this. The future of our city truly depends upon it. And I'm glad and thrilled to be part of this latest step in the journey. I'm confident that this program will yield dividends if we're focused, if we're determined, if we make sure that we show our young people that we care about them and their future is here because we're investing in them. And with that, please welcome Chancellor Salgado to say a few words about this innovative program. Chancellor.
Good afternoon. Let me start by really thanking the mayor and Dr. Jackson for extraordinary leadership in these incredible times. Speaking as a Chicagoan, not just a chancellor, I'm deeply grateful for the fact that we have the leadership of these two extraordinary women. Teach Chicago Tomorrow recognizes the tremendous talent that exists among Chicago's young people. And the City Colleges of Chicago is proud to be a partner in this effort. Mayor Lightfoot, Dr. Jackson, and I have been working to create the strongest ever relationship between CPS and CCC through our Chicago Roadmap effort, and Teach Chicago Tomorrow will take that work even further. City Colleges is already a top destination for CPS students. We are a smart choice for students to obtain high-quality coursework that transfers to four-year universities. Our low-cost tuition helps students afford a college education and earn credentials and degrees without absorbing a mountain of debt. We know that CPS schools are filled with emerging leaders, passionate, creative, dedicated, humanistic, intelligent, entrepreneurial. I can go on and on and on. We have a responsibility and opportunity to release this potential. Our young people are eager to educate and inspire generations of leaders to come. 3/4 of City College's students are Black or Latinx. With deep insight into Chicago communities, they are well positioned to serve future CPS students. At City Colleges, we offer transfer partnerships with four-year universities and are extremely delighted today to build upon the existing transfer partnership that we have with Illinois State University. We offer strong student supports from wellness centers to tutors and advisors to ensure our students reach their goals. Truman College, one of our 7 city colleges, is our Center for Excellence in Education, Human, and Natural Sciences. I want to take a moment to recognize President Sean Jackson, not to be confused, right? He is Dr. Jackson, but Dr. Jackson joins us here today. He's a powerful example of a successful man of color in education. He and his team are leading this work at City Colleges Chicago, and he has deep, deep knowledge about what it takes to make this successful, because President Jackson was himself a graduate of Taft High School and went on to serve as a CPS elementary high school science teacher and principal in Austin before taking the helm at Truman College. Think about this, a man of color in science. President Jackson chose his passion to educate, mentor, and transform the lives of learners, and he has never looked back. Because of experience, he was motivated to launch an effort at Truman to support men of color pursuing careers in education and providing them with mentors and work-based learning experiences. Thank you, President Jackson, for your leadership. I'm pointing out President Jackson because students in this program will have the chance to benefit from the life experiences of Dr. Jackson and the diverse faculty and staff that we have at City Colleges of Chicago. City Colleges and Teach Chicago Tomorrow will ensure that future educators find a career path to a college degree, return to the classroom, and make a difference in their community. So with that, I'm really delighted to have our four-year partner, an incredible leader in higher education who has really done our state so well and our students so well at Illinois State University, President Larry Dietz.
It's my pleasure to be here with you today. I'm honored to be here among the esteemed speakers. Thank you very much for the invitation. And I would observe that there's a common name that's been talked about a lot, and that's Jackson. And in a few minutes, I will introduce Daniel Jackson, who may very well be the next president of one of the city colleges here in the community. But Illinois State University is proud to be developing the Teach Chicago Tomorrow program with Chicago Public Schools and City Colleges. It's a partnership that we look forward to continuing to work on and to be a part of to serve the future students. Many of you know that Illinois State University began as a teacher's college more than 150 years ago. We have the distinction of being the oldest public university in the state of Illinois, and our charter was drafted by a young attorney back then by the name of Abraham Lincoln. So we're pretty proud of that legacy. So you might say that it's in this our blood to be among the leaders in teacher education. Of course, those founders would not have foreseen today's world. I can't imagine trying to explain to them the need for a major in cybersecurity, for example, or lessons on using social media to promote a business or to report the news. Yet within the very foundation of education lay the impetus to improve, to innovate, and to grow. The groundwork of success begins with education. And indeed, my mother, who was a first grade teacher in Illinois for 40 years, would also be surprised that I'm standing before this group representing a fine institution like Illinois State. But education runs deeply in our family. Future Teach Chicago Tomorrow participants will be in good company. 1 out of every 6 teachers working in Illinois, 1 out of every 6, graduated from Illinois State University. The Department of Education reports ISU is the 7th largest producer of teachers in the entire United States and the largest in the Midwest. The desire to educate defines us, and teaching and learning remain core to our ISU mission. This program will build on our existing partnership with Chicago Public Schools that we're very proud of. Our Teacher Education Pipeline program, known as Step Up, recently celebrated 10 years of collaboration with Chicago schools, and work continues in Little Village, Auburn Gresham, Albany Park, and East Garfield Park. The National Center for Urban Education, housed at Illinois State University, continues to find innovative ways to connect students to Chicago Public Schools. My thanks to ISU's College of Education and their Dean, Dr. Jim Wolfinger, and the National Center for Urban Education Executive Director, Dr. Maria Luisa Zamudio, for their leadership. We wouldn't be where we are without their leadership. A majority of our ISU students come from the Chicago area, and we owe much to this city and the surrounding communities. We at ISU look forward to working with our partners to create an innovative teacher education program that prepares quality teachers for the city of Chicago, teachers who reflect the population of one of the most wonderfully diverse cities in the entire United States. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce a teacher who I have known throughout his entire career at Illinois State, who exemplifies the mission of the program that we are discussing today. Daniel Jackson is a graduate of Chicago Public Schools, is an alumnus of Illinois State University with a degree in education. He knocked it out of the park as a student at Illinois State, and he's knocking it out of the park as a teacher in the Chicago Public Schools. He is a second grade teacher right here in Chicago at Dixon Elementary. And now I'll turn it over to perhaps the next president of one of the Chicago colleges, Daniel Jackson.
It is good to see you, President Dietz, and thank you for the awesome introduction. This morning, I was informing my students about the press conference, and I told them that we wanted to recruit more black and brown teachers just like myself. And they were like, you know what, Mr. Jackson, I want to become a teacher. And so it's funny because at that young age, they feel that they want to become a teacher, and I want to make sure I support them and do my best as a teacher to give them that inspiration that they need to become a teacher. I'm a proud CPS alumnus, ISU alumnus, and today, CPS second grade teacher at Dixon Elementary School. Every day, I teach to transform lives. Today, I'm giving back by mentoring and teaching other young people in Chicago who were just like me when I was younger. Growing up, I attended Irvin C. Mollison and went to Jones College Prep, both Chicago public schools. At Jones, I knew I would become a teacher. For 4 years, I volunteered at the Red Shield Salvation Army. And all of my life, I just enjoyed learning. The relationship I had with my teachers were indescribable. Through my teachers, I've always felt a connection of them being dependable, trustworthy, and loyal. And just like me, I feel like I'm pretty open-minded. Their spirit in the classroom drew me closer to their lessons because they taught me how to become a critical thinker. After high school, I feared I would have a rough transition into college. However, going to Illinois State was an amazing experience. Joining organizations like Golden Apple and Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated prepared me for real-life experiences to serve children and the community in Chicago. And it kept me on track towards my goal. My professors, who were also my mentors, were there to provide professional support to mold me to become an educator. When I first got on campus, my goal was to graduate in 4 years and return to the south side of Chicago to teach. The path to that goal became even clearer when I heard that I could do a full year of student teaching in Chicago my senior year. Of course, I took the opportunity to return to what I had known to be the best city. Through the Chicago Teachers Pipeline program at ISU, it allowed me the opportunity to teach my community. This was the teacher preparation I hoped for. I knew this could draw me closer to my younger sister and cousins too. There's power in teachers who look like me, sounds like, and has walked in the shoes of me. Teach Chicago tomorrow will normalize seeing more teachers of color in our classroom, especially brothers, men of color. Being born and raised in Chicago, I have walked the path I am teaching my students to follow. George Washington Carver once said, "All learning is understanding relationships." Not only do I work with the students, but I have a commitment to the community. As a black male raised in Brownsville and Inglewood, I have had to learn how to be teachable, socially conscious of the disparities among different groups of children, of our children. As a young educator, I take pride showing equity among all my learners. As an educator, I work towards advancing equity by changing my prejudice or biases I've had. There's power in the teachers of color. We understand our children's stories. We can relate to them, as they said earlier. We can relate to them. I've grown up in these communities. We relate to them on social, emotional, physical, and sometimes even spiritual connections. Teach Chicago Tomorrow will be an excellent program of advocacy for teachers of color. I'm excited to work with all of you to make this program successful. I want to thank CPS Dr. Jackson, Mayor Lightfoot, City of Colleges of Chicago, and President Dietz for being the game changers to bridge the gap of placing teachers of color in our black and brown classrooms. Next, you will be hearing from Carolina Velez, a counselor at Curie High School.
Thank you to Mayor Lightfoot, CEO Dr. Janice Jackson, and our CPS leaders for allowing me to share this space today. My name is Carolina Velez, and I am a CPS alumni from Lane Tech High School. From there, I attended UIC as an undeclared major. At UIC, I attended an educational forum where I heard the call, the need for more teachers. After much reflection, I decided to major in secondary education. And when I made that decision, I knew I wanted to teach in Chicago public schools. However, I knew very little about the process of becoming a teacher. Like, you gotta take a test to become a teacher? Yes, you do, for state licensure. While teaching, students would share their personal stories with me, and I soon realized I wanted to work with students one-on-one and help them create their post-secondary plans. I decided to become a high school counselor. Even though I no longer have my own classroom, I use the tools I gained from my teaching experience every day. For the past 5 years, I have been a counselor at Curie High School on the southwest side of Chicago, and I live in the surrounding community as well. As a counselor, I teach lessons on building social-emotional skills, I run groups, and support students' academic and behavioral growth. coach students one-on-one, and much, much more. Currently, I'm working with seniors to fill out college applications, complete the FAFSA, and discuss their post-secondary plan. As I discuss post-secondary plans with students, it is my goal to set them up for success. The likelihood of a student following through with their plan decreases if they miss even the smallest step, such as not scheduling a college placement exam or not signing up for orientation. College students of color face a myriad of challenges. Students need support and mentorship all along the way to and through college. When I say support, I'm really asking our CPS graduates to be vulnerable enough to ask for help on their college campus, such as, I don't feel a connection to this college campus. Maybe college isn't for me. In its inaugural year, Teach Chicago Tomorrow will offer 100 like-minded individuals to come together to learn, grow, and share in this unique experience. Students will have a space to share their thoughts with a mentor, receive academic advising, financial counseling, and planning, and have a clear understanding of the road to become a CPS teacher. And the program will continue to grow and expand from there, meaning even more CPS students who currently sit in our classes will soon lead our classes. When I embarked on this journey as the daughter of Ecuadorian immigrants, I wanted to make a difference and help others. I considered myself a shy kid, but I loved my high school experience, so I took a risk. I didn't exactly know how I was gonna do it. This pathway did not exist for me, but it does, and it's here now. And to quote the fellow CPS alum, Latere, you are the one who you've been waiting for. CPS students, I'm talking to you. You are the one we've been waiting for. CPS students, we need you. This is the call. I'm gonna say it one more time, just in case you didn't hear me. We need you. You know CPS, you know the needs, you know the talent and the resources, and have great ideas to implement. In some cases, you already have implemented those ideas through your student voice committee or your club, school club. Being a teacher is exciting, it's fun, and every day is different. Teaching is rewarding, and you will have an impact. I'm excited for this initiative and for the first cohort. Seniors, this pathway will meet your Learn, Plan, Succeed graduation requirement. Contact your counselor for more information. It is now my honor to reintroduce Chancellor Juan Salgado of City Colleges of Chicago. Thank you.
I wish Carolina was my counselor in high school.
Nice job.
Before we finish, I'm going to say a few words in Spanish. Antes de concluir los comentarios y continuar con las preguntas, me han pedido que ofrezca un resumen del programa en español. Hoy, la alcaldesa Lightfoot y las escuelas públicas de Chicago anunciaron Teach Chicago Tomorrow, un plan innovador que busca apoyar a los graduados de CPS que quieran ser educadores y establecer una nueva red de maestros talentosos y diversos para nuestras escuelas públicas. La estrategia cuenta con apoyos estructurados para ayudar a los graduados de CPS que aspiran a convertirse en maestros. Asimismo, en la oficina de talento de CPS tendrán reclutadores dedicados a ayudar a los estudiantes interesados en seguir este camino después de la escuela secundaria y a través de la universidad y de vuelta a un trabajo enseñando en CPS. CPS proyecta que para el año 2025, Teach Chicago Tomorrow graduará a su primer grupo de 100 maestros, apuntando al distrito hacia su meta a largo plazo de triplicar el número de graduados de CPS que son contratados anualmente a más de 500. Basado en las tendencias actuales, la mayoría de estos nuevos maestros locales serán afroamericanos y latinos. Un componente crítico de esta estrategia son los convenios con colegios y universidades para apoyar a los estudiantes en su camino. La inauguración de Teach Chicago Tomorrow Pathways Partnership es un nuevo convenio que se centra en nuestros estudiantes de escuela a carrera entre CPS, City Colleges of Chicago y Illinois State University. Los estudiantes que participan en este programa primero obtienen un título asociado en los City Colleges al completar con éxito los cursos de educación general. Después obtienen su licenciatura completando los 2 segundos años de universidad como estudiante de ISU, tomando clases en Chicago. Los estudiantes completarán el trabajo de curso y la experiencia clínica a través de una combinación de aprendizaje en persona y a distancia. Después de completar la práctica de enseñanza en las escuelas de CPS y de obtener su licencia de enseñanza en Illinois, los estudiantes tendrán prioridad para obtener trabajo como maestros en las escuelas públicas de Chicago. El convenio Teach Chicago Tomorrow Pathways comenzará con una clase anticipada de 100 graduados de CPS que entrarán en el programa el año académico 2021-2022 y estarán enseñando de tiempo completo en CPS en el otoño de 2025. Los estudiantes que no participen en el convenio de City Colleges ISU pueden optar por seguir un camino diferente, como inscribirse en una universidad de 4 años después de graduarse de la escuela secundaria. Si los estudiantes y familiares están interesados en obtener más información, pueden hacerlo visitando cps.edu/teachtomorrow. Gracias. Thank you.
Now we're happy to take your questions.
Mayor, multiple questions today that all center on school, and perhaps Dr. Jackson would weigh in as well. With less than a month before the start of the second quarter, the district hasn't yet spelled out how it will make a decision about reopening schools. Are you closer to making that decision? What should parents be expecting? Where do you all stand on
I'll
that?
let Dr. Jackson start.
I like how the mayor teed me up for that one. No, we know that parents are anxious to hear from us on this, and we've committed to making an announcement very soon. We know that the second quarter is approaching quickly, and we want to ensure that the plan that we put out is as thoughtful as our parents anticipate. And so there will be more news coming soon.
It's soon this week. Could it be a hybrid plan? Might it be young children rather than high school? Any of that? Or is it going to be all in or nothing?
So we will be making an announcement about what that is, just as we've done in the past. We want to be intentional about that. There's a lot of data, most notably the data around health conditions that we're looking at. We're also looking at how our students are engaging in the current model. I would like to first start by thanking all of our teachers and principals who have worked extremely hard to make remote learning a success. But I've said this before and I'll say it again, remote learning is no replacement for in-person instruction. And so my desire and my priority is to see students back in school as soon as it is possible to do that safely. But again, there are a lot of things that we have to look at in order to make that decision. And I think the final thing that I'll say to people is that we're looking at this as a matter of equity as well. What we know about this is that some students do very well in an environment like this because they have a lot of resources and support in order to make it work. But there are a lot of students in Chicago public schools, majority of our students, that need an extraordinary amount of support in a regular setting. And so making that work in this remote setting has been challenging. The screen time, just the disparities in what people experience. So we're looking at all of that to make a good decision, but we commit to making an announcement in the very near future.
Mayor, could you weigh in on that as well? Because, you know, we're seeing more schools opening, and we're even hearing the health experts say, especially for young children, it is safe. New York is going to school. Why isn't Chicago in person?
Well, it's very difficult to compare a completely different city and other circumstances, but let me pick up on a point that Dr. Jackson made. There's a lot of different data points that CPS is considering, and let me first say they've done a tremendous job, they being CPS, and really standing up, I think, a very robust remote learning infrastructure. From a lot of the planning and lessons learned from the spring, a lot of planning over the summer, making sure that we got devices in kids' hands. You know about our Chicago Connected program to help bridge the digital divide. But as Dr. Jackson just said, there are some categories of students who really struggle with remote learning, where they need the touch of being in a classroom with their teacher, with their colleagues, and having those additional supports. And it's no secret, because it's really been a phenomenon that's happening across the country. Our youngest learners, our pre-K kids in particular, we're seeing significant declines in a number of those students, not just here in Chicago, but across the country, who are actually showing up and being connected. Obviously, our diverse learners is another category of students where we're very concerned. So the focus is, of course, around the data, the public health guidance, but it's also around equity. And I'm concerned about whether or not we are doing enough for certain categories of students, particularly our youngest learners and our diverse learners. And we've got to make decisions that maximize the opportunities for everyone, but particularly those students who I think are most vulnerable and are having the biggest challenges in a remote learning environment. So we're looking to a lot of different data points. You know, the archdiocese schools, many of them have been open for in-person full-time. Some have been hybrid. We're looking at the experience of a lot of the private schools as well as the charters. And of course, we're looking at private pre-K experience as well. But first and foremost, we're going to be guided by the public health guidance. There's a lot more communication, I think, that will be done with the entire school community, particularly parents. And as Dr. Jackson said, I get this question almost every time that I'm out in public, and we recognize that parents need to know so that they can plan, and we will be getting that information out to them as quickly as we can.
This week?
Soon.
Fran Spielman from the Sun-Times. Civic Federation President Lawrence Masal is urging you to steer clear of raising property taxes during a pandemic and instead take on what he calls the sacred cows of city government. With 8 days to go before your budget address, what can you tell us about your chances of doing that? And then how many layoffs might be required? Will you be urging union leaders instead to share the pain among all of their members by agreeing to pay cuts or unpaid furlough days?
Well, look, the reality is we have a $1.2 billion budget deficit next year. Everything has to be on the table. Now, I've been very clear since our budget forecast on August 31st that the least favored options are property taxes and layoffs. But the reality is we have gotten zero additional support from Washington, D.C. That seems increasingly unlikely that that's going to happen before we're going to need to present a budget to the City Council. And so we've got to, as we have been, prepared for some painful decisions. And we have been asking everyone to contribute, everyone. Now, some have said yes and stepped up and offered in lots of different ways. Others have pushed us away and not been willing to participate in the discussions. But the reality is we have to be fair, we have to be equitable in the way in which we approach this, and that's what we intend to do.
The City Council today rejected your ethics committee, your proposal to the ethics committee. Several folks are asking me to ask you, what is your reaction to that? Why, first of all, did you want that, and what do you feel about that outright rejection of this vote of 17-0?
Well, let's be clear upon how this moved to where it was. We heard back months ago that there were some unintended consequences for really the historic ethics reform that we pushed forward and was approved by City Council. We put forward a proposal to address that. That proposal was not something that the leaders of this latest initiative, that's Alderman Smith and Alderman O'Shea, wanted to embrace. Alderman Irvin decided that he wanted to take a chance, and I said, you can do what you want, but you're going to have to build a coalition for this change. He went forward, I think fully understanding the difficult terrain, and the council voted how it voted. So this is really, I think, in this instance, a better question for Alderman Irvin than for me. We remain committed to ethics reform. We remain committed to transparency and making sure that we are doing the right things to win back the confidence of our residents that our elected officials, from me to the members of City Council, are doing things in a transparent way that puts the residents of the city first, not our own personal gain. And that's exactly the legislation that was previously passed. It accomplishes that goal.
So it sounds as if you're kind of walking back that you even supported it.
No, I'm not walking back that I supported it. As I said, I thought that there were some unintended consequences that were brought to our attention. We put forward a proposal to address that. Alderman Irvin decided he was going to push the ball forward, and the result was the result. Now, I still think there are some unintended consequences, but this was something that was really driven by the City Council, not by this administration.
Rachel Pearson from WBBM News Radio. There's been concern over the safety and effectiveness of coronavirus of a vaccine, given how politicized it's become. This includes Spokane, Washington, where the mayor said police officers are already refusing to get vaccinated. Are there similar concerns in Chicago? It has been suggested essential workers and first responders be first. Has the state or the city made any plan for which group of or groups of people will be the first to receive the vaccine when it's ready?
So there's a number of different questions in there, and I'll try to take them in turn. CDPH has been planning a regime for vaccination now for several months. Obviously, we don't know at this point what the vaccine will be, whether it'll be one shot, multiple shots. I don't think we are in a position right now to opine about that because there's lots of different trials that are in various states. It is unfortunate that the president politicized, and let's just be honest, it's him. He's politicized the vaccine. People have to have confidence in a vaccine that comes out. They have to have confidence that there were no shortcuts, that this was done by the books, that there was the same rigor on this vaccine as there would be in any other vaccine when we're talking about the size of a global pandemic. I'm confident that we will get there, but we have to allow the scientists to determine when it's ready. It's got to go through all the same kind of trials that it normally would. This can't be a gift given to the president to boost his reelection supports. And I think that's where the skepticism comes. But we are confident that when a vaccine is developed, that we will have a good plan to implement it and make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to take the vaccine. And we're going to be heavily promoting it and understanding that we're operating, unfortunately, in an environment where people are skeptical about the validity of the vaccine. And that's unfortunately another hurdle that we're just going to have to overcome, and we will.
What about, pardon me? Two more. All right. Chris Ty from CBS 2. Could you react to the shooting of a pregnant mother on East 95th Street overnight? Do you have any kind of update? What kind of line this might do you consider?
Well, first of all, the killing of that mother who was pregnant and who had two young children is absolutely horrific. I mean, absolutely horrific. There's a lot of things that happen in this city, but this is without a doubt one of the worst. The detectives have, I think, a very good set of leads that they are aggressively following. I just got an update earlier this morning from the superintendent and the chief of detectives on that. But we have to say a prayer for those young children who luckily are been taken in by a relative. We have to say a prayer for that baby that is still struggling for life in the hospital. And of course, we have to say a prayer for this mother who was senselessly murdered outside of her home.
Could you give us your reaction to the Amy Coney Barrett hearing? Have you been watching it? And what are your thoughts? Are you an originalist?
You ask a gay black woman if she's an originalist? No, ma'am, I am not.
Could you explain that to those who might not understand?
Since the Constitution didn't consider me a person in any way, shape, or form, because I'm a woman, because I'm black, because I'm gay, I am not an originalist. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that it's a document that the founders intended to evolve, and what they did was set the framework for how our country was going to be different than any other. But originalists say, let's go back to 1776, and whatever was there in the original language, that's it. Well, that language excluded now over 50% of the country. So no, I'm not an originalist. I have, it's hard for me to follow these hearings. I will just be honest with you. The hypocrisy of the Republicans in the Senate driving this nomination to conclusion in an environment where they were hypocritically denied Merrick Garland even a meeting with many of these same senators. The hypocrisy is something that is a bitter pill for me to swallow. I think, given the numbers in the Senate, the nomination is on a course for confirmation, but I ask the American people to look long and hard at what is happening in our democracy. The Supreme Court cannot be politicized. If it is, in the way that this administration has done, it will have zero legitimacy. I deeply worry about this woman's stated views. She's on the record on a number of different things, not the least of which is thinking that gay marriage is something that shouldn't be countenanced. And she's got soulmates in Justice Thomas and others who think that the decision by the Supreme Court, which I think is only a handful of years old, should somehow be rolled back. So what should I tell my daughter? That somehow now my wife and I are no longer married, that we're no longer legitimately recognized in the eyes of the law? That is dangerous, dangerous territory. And what about a woman's right to choose? Really, we're going to keep relitigating this issue and we're going to make abortion illegal as Amy Coney Barrett thinks it should be? So she is not somebody that I think shows the temperament, shows a judicial restraint, the respect for precedent that should be on the high court. But unfortunately, the Republicans are licking their chops with glee at the opportunity to dramatically change the balance of the court. I hope that cooler heads prevail if she becomes a justice, that the members of the court are going to also understand that they don't operate in a vacuum. If they operate in a way that is perceived as overtly political, they will have zero legitimacy in the eyes of the American people, undermining the whole premise of lifetime tenure and why we have a Supreme Court of the land. So I'm disappointed. I'm getting myself ready for the ultimate conclusion, but I'm worried that this woman, given her stated views, doesn't speak to millions of Americans who just want to be free and without oppression from our government. And it feels like this court is moving down the track of being overtly political and undoing even recent precedent, undermining the whole notion of stare decisis, which in lay terms means that you respect the precedent. So I'm very concerned about that.
Thank you. Just one last one, and we'll go back to Fran Spielman, who, let's end on a sports note, because we know both of you are sports fans. Any update on the possibility allowing at least some Bears fans to attend games? They're already being allowed in other major cities. Wouldn't you like to be there at Soldier Field, Mayor? Come on.
Well, like any other Bears fan, of course, I would like to be there. We're having conversations with the Bears, and we'll see where they lead.
Ooh, that sounds like maybe.
We'll see.